top minister accuses protesters of imperiling economic recovery and the health of Thai people. The comments come as there are tentative signs that Thailand's predicted economic contraction for 2020 will not be as severe as expected, while the Ministry of Commerce has just revealed a slightly more optimistic export outlook for September, with Thailand still managing to notch up a very healthy trade surplus for the first 9 months of the year to date. Thailand's Deputy Prime Minister with responsibility for the economy, Supathanapong Punmachayowa, has warned protesters that they risk impeding economic recovery which is underway and efforts to protect the health of the Thai public by prioritizing constitutional change at a time when the kingdom is already in crisis. He said the former goals were the duty and top priority of the current government. Deputy Prime Minister Supathanapong Punmachayowa pulled no punches as he criticized the actions of protesters on the streets at this time. He said that Thailand was fighting for its economic life, with the first duty of the government being public health and the recovery of the economy right now. On Thursday also, Pimchanok Vongkorpan, of the Ministry of Commerce, revealed that the predicted contraction in Thai exports for 2020 looks now like it will be less than anticipated, while the kingdom maintains a healthy trade surplus for the first 9 months. Thailand's Energy Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, Supathanapong Punmachayowa, who has responsibility for coordinating the economy, has chided pro-democracy protesters for having the wrong priorities at this critical time in Thailand's history. Mr. Supathanapong's comments come as there is more economic data emerging to show that the Thai economy may be pulling out of a massive downward spiral driven by the COVID-19 emergency, and even before that, declining exports caused by US-driven disruptions to world trade. Progress in mending Thailand's economy. The Deputy PM's comments came during a meeting on Thursday when he made his views known to the media. He warned that now is not the appropriate time to be pushing for constitutional reform and more democracy in the political system. The minister, installed in his new role in the summer cabinet reshuffle by Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha, disclosed that the International Monetary Fund had just recalibrated its growth projection for Thailand and adjusted the level of anticipated contraction for the Thai economy downwards from 7.7% to 7.1%. He also referred to efforts that are ongoing through the Bank of Thailand to restructure debts arrangements for Thai firms struggling to cope with the unprecedented shock to the system experienced by the Thailand in the 6 months from the end of March this year, including a near shutdown of large swathes of the economy with foreign tourism still effectively closed off. Mr. Supathanapong expressed satisfaction that 94% of borrowers' debt had been able to be renegotiated on more favorable terms. Now is not the time for the young generation to push for constitutional reform, says the Deputy PM. The minister deplored the fact that the younger generation on the streets was putting Thailand's prospects of recovery in jeopardy by their actions, and even more seriously, running the real risk of generating heightened political instability. It occurred to him that the priorities for Thailand, right now, must be economic recovery and making sure that the health of the Thai public was being protected. For them, amendments to the constitution take precedence, but for us, we are looking for an economic recovery plan, preventing a second wave of COVID-19 infections and maintaining political stability. We all have the duty to maintain stability so we can safely pull out of this crisis, the Deputy Prime Minister warned. Export contraction for September was lower than expected, with a strong trade surplus over at the Ministry of Commerce in non-February. At the same time, there was also a more positive picture. Pimchanok Vongkorpan presented the exports and imports top-line data for September, and while Thailand's exports declined by 3.56%, the drop compared to this time last year was represented by $19.6 billion or 614 billion baht in exports. This was a better performance than the 4.08% drop predicted by analysts including Reuters. Significantly, she revealed that Thailand's imports for the month fell by 9.08%, resulting in a significant $2.3 billion trade surplus. This is a consistent pattern for 2020, which has seen the kingdom notch up a healthy trade surplus of $20.6 billion or 649 billion baht. In the first 9 months of 2020, total exports are at $172.9 billion, decreasing 7.33% year-on-year, while total imports are at $152.2 billion, decreasing 14.64%, Ms. Pimchanok stated. Thailand, therefore, has a trade surplus of $20.6 billion so far this year. Thailand's agriculture and food exports are selling well in Asia. The export decline for 2020 is less severe, the ministry official attributed a better-than-expected set of figures to agriculture exports and processed foods, which are in big demand on Thailand's Asian markets. She also noted that Thailand had fared well with its exports of rubber gloves and supplies for the medical sector. She said that Asia appeared to be recovering at a faster pace than either Europe or the United States at this time, and that this dynamic, combined with a focus by Thai exporters on markets nearer to home, may see the exports contraction come in at between 6% and 7% this year. This compares well to fears expressed by shippers and those in the private sector at the height of the contraction, months ago, that this figure could well have been twice this. Protests may hinder inward investment. The Director General of the Trade Policy and Strategy Office told reporters that the threatened crisis caused by the resurgence of street protests should not, in the short term, impact on the kingdom's export drive and efforts to restore export performance this year, as the demand for products and services from Thailand was offshore. However, there was every danger that if the situation escalates or continues, it could negatively impact potential investors currently looking at Thailand as a manufacturing center or base for export activity, as the picture was one of political instability.